All right, Pete, you wanna set us off?
Yes, yeah. Thanks, everyone. I see some familiar names and some new people as well, which is great. This this virtual event is our second one at Edtech Institute of Chicago. Uh, Excited to learn here about how to improve our pitch skills. And welcome. Thanks for coming. And just a reminder that our in-person event will be later this month, September 26th, and I'll put the RSVP link in the chat. But otherwise, yeah, ready to go, ready to learn.
Awesome, thank you. Before we dive in, a couple of housekeeping items. Pete, if you wouldn't mind just keeping an eye on like the waiting room if people are still entering and
For
admitting them
sure.
if you see them. For everyone who's attending here, this is a highly interactive session. So if you are able to have your camera on, it'll make it a whole lot better experience for you. It'll also help me as well. If you're like in transit or something, I totally understand. But if you're stationary and you're able to have your camera on, you'll get a lot more out of the session. Also, be at the ready in the chat, and there will be times where I'll ask you to come off mute as well. So just be ready. This is going to be an active session. We're going to cover a whole lot of content over the next hour. Let me get my screen share pulled up. Just make sure, otherwise, at least for right now, you have your side muted. There will be parts where I'll ask you to come off mute. All right. Can y'all see my screen? Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic. Looks like we got someone who's still off of mute. Pete, I'm gonna make you a co-host just so you can like help manage some of those things.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome to How to Not Suck at Pitching Your Startup. This is a presentation that is very near and dear to my heart. Perhaps some of you may have seen it before through knowing me or knowing my content. Today, we're going to take this presentation that I usually do, but put more of an ed tech focus on it. So today is very, very explicitly focused on your elevator pitch, your 1-minute story. What do you say when someone asks, what does your company do? How do you respond? And that's a really important answer that you give, because how you communicate there is going to unlock so much opportunity depending on what you say. So today's content is structured into 3 sections. The first section is mindset around pitching. The second section is the formulas and strategies to leverage to develop your elevator pitch or that 1-minute story. The third section is actual examples using those formulas and strategies. And for today, I've chosen specifically 3 different ed tech examples so you can see exactly how it applies to your situation as an ed tech startup. Now, some of you here might be a more like traditional service-based business. I think the majority of you here are tech companies with visions of raising capital or expanding your customer base or getting your first customers altogether. For any of you here who are a more traditional service-based company, everything I say is still going to apply. I've just, the primary audience for this tends to be tech startups. So you'll hear me talk more about the tech world than anything else. So, and also Siri already asked, will we get access to this presentation PowerPoint recording? Yes, that brings me to my next point. After this, I'm going to send you an email that has a copy of the slides that's actually going to include more elevator pitch examples for you. I'm going to give you access as well to what I call the director's cut recording of this workshop. So that's a pre-recorded version that covers everything from today, but also gives an extra 10 or 15 minutes specifically on improving your investor pitch deck. So you'll get the director's cut recording and a copy of the slides with some bonus examples as well. And then this exact recording from today, like right now, this will go up on our YouTube channel in about a week. So just make sure you're subscribed to the Startup Hypeman YouTube channel. All right. With that said, this is How to Not Suck at Pitching Your Startup. My name is Rajiv Nathan, aka RajNATION, the founder and chief pitch artist of Startup Hypeman. Now, you all tuned in today for an educational workshop on how to pitch. You may not have realized you also tuned into a live interactive game show called Pitch Your Startup. Woo, woo, woo. That's right. It's Pitch Your Startup, the only live interactive game show where a room of ed tech entrepreneurs are pit in front of their peers, where they have none other than, you guessed it, pitch their startup. So what I would like is one volunteer from the crowd who wants to come on down. I will put 60 seconds on the clock, and your job is to pitch me. Who would like to be our lucky volunteer? Silence filled the room. All right, if we don't get someone in the next 5 seconds, I'm going to pick someone. Okay, I'm picking someone. Let's go with Kajal Jain. Are you able to come off mute and participate?
Hi, yes.
Awesome. And if you can do camera as well, if you're able to, that'd be great.
I'll keep camera off because I am middle of something. So
Okay. All right. Well, first off, everybody give her a round of applause. Kajal Jain, come on down. All right, Kajal, I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock. When I say go, you go. Ready, set, go.
hi everyone. My startup is, oh my gosh, I am totally not prepared for this. Hi, my name is Kajal. I am actually a fractional marketer and product strategist, and I help small companies come up with their strategies to go to market.
All right. And that clocked in at only 20 seconds. Round of applause for Kajal. Thank you. All right, stay with me for a moment. How do you feel right now?
Totally off guard, but good.
All right, talk to me about what you think of your pitch. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you like or not like about it?
What I like about my pitch is I spell out my target audience and I spit out my expertise, but I definitely need to get more creative with that.
All right. If you were going to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rank it?
Right now, 4.
All right. Everybody else, if you don't mind, are you open to getting ratings from the room as well in the chat?
Me? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Everybody else, go ahead and drop your rating on a scale of 1 to 10 of Kajal's pitch there that she gave. Now, as those numbers are coming in, Kajal, what I'll say is, I think yes, there is a definitive answer as to who it's for and what you're doing. I think it's missing some detail, and I think you have an opportunity to expand on what you started to say there. Looks like we got a 4, we got a 5. We'll get some more responses coming in a moment here. Someone gave it a 6, a 4, so we're right around hovering around like the halfway point. What I think is really missing there is an element of a story that you can tell someone to keep them interested. And that's really the point here is how do you start talking in a way where people are hanging on to your every sentence? A lot of times you'll hear experts say like, oh, you can't say anything that lasts longer than 10 seconds. And like, that's true if what you're saying is not interesting. But if you have something interesting to say, you will afford yourself another 5 seconds and another 5 seconds because the person who's listening, again, is hanging on to your every word. So what we're going to do today is talk through, again, the mindset, the tools, and show examples that'll get you to that really full, complete 1-minute introductory story that you can tell in a way that feels super authentic and natural and doesn't even feel or sound like it's like a rehearsed pitch that you're giving to someone. It'll feel like you're just almost coming up with it off the top of your head. Does that sound good, Kajal?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you for participating. Once again, everybody give her a round of applause. Now, for those of you who did not participate, I think there was maybe 30-ish seconds of silence there before we got to me just picking Kajal. Can you let me know in the chat why you chose not to step up and take that opportunity? You have an entire room of your peers here. Perhaps one of the people in the room could be a potential collaborator, could be a potential customer, maybe could introduce you to a funding opportunity or introduce you to a customer, could be a partner of yours. Tell me why you chose not to step up. And if you are in transit, of course, that's a different reason. Where are y'all at, people? Give me an answer here. What's your reason for not stepping up? Where you have not really practiced or clearly defined the 1 minute pitch? Thank you, Greg, for sharing that. Caught off guard and was nervous. Yeah, anyone else feel like they were caught off guard? Kajal mentioned that. Or like maybe you don't have it ready, or maybe you don't like being put on the spot, right? Those are some of the things that I frequently hear when I do this exercise with founders. And I want you to, see some of these answers that are coming in and hear what I just said there and look around the room. And I want you to understand, if that's where you're at today, you are not alone. That is the majority of how entrepreneurs feel when they are asked, oh, hey, give me your pitch. Now that's me playing good cop. I'm going to play bad cop now. You're not alone, but it's also not okay, because I promise you what will never happen is you are not going to get a key investor or a potential customer who walks up to you and is like, all right, Greg, you know what? Not today, but 24 hours from now, I want to come back and meet you in this same spot, same time, same place tomorrow. And then I want you to pitch me. I'm just giving you this 24-hour heads up so you can shake out all the nerves, you can practice, you can prepare, you can put the whole thing together. Because then when we meet tomorrow on this piece of concrete on the sidewalk, then I'm going to be totally ready to hear it. And I'm going to accept it with open arms because I know you've had all that time to practice beforehand. That is not going to happen. I promise you. What is going to happen is you will find yourself at a networking event. You will find yourself at a conference, right? These are places where people are asking, oh, what does your company do? Tell me about your company, right? And if you haven't put thought into it beforehand, like you might even know that that event's on the calendar, but if you haven't made a concerted effort beforehand, you're going to walk in and have that same thing happen. Oh, so we do this and this and this, right? You want to be prepared every single time. You may find yourself at a trade show, right, where you're hosting a booth for your startup. And all of these people are walking up to your booth and they want to learn about your company. And if you have not put time and care and attention into your pitch, into how you're introducing yourself, you're going to lose a ton of potential leads, right? You want to make sure you have that buttoned up, and you don't want to just be practicing it or figuring it out when you're in the live moment. You might find yourself in an actual elevator, right? This is real stuff. I'll tell you, there was a client of ours, the process that I'm going to explain today. There was a client of ours a couple of years ago who, or maybe it was last year, I did this workshop in an in-person version at Tech Nexus. And when we got to the part of showing pitch examples, I had called up my client beforehand and I was like, hey, do you want to attend this? And like, I can just give you the microphone and you can do your 1 minute pitch when we get to that part of the presentation. He was like, yeah, why not? So first off, he didn't say, no, I don't think I'll be ready for that. He said, yeah, okay, cool. And I think I called him like, the day before or that afternoon. He gives his pitch. And then at the end of the event, someone in the audience, I didn't plant this person, I didn't even know they were there. They walk up to him and they go, I'm an investor at so-and-so firm. I really liked what you had to say, and I'm really curious to learn more. Here's my card. Let's set up time later this week to talk, right? Opportunity is on the other side of clear, compelling, and strong communication. That's why this is so important, and I don't want you to get away with like, oh, I just haven't thought through it yet, or oh, I don't like being put on the spot. You should never feel like you're put on the spot if you have something ready to go that you've worked on and that you've practiced. So that's why this is so important. And I want to share everything today through the lens of other entrepreneurs as well, who are also in that same kind of boat that you might feel in. Specifically, I want to share the story of a pair of EdTech founders by the names of Kim and Joyce. They are the co-founders of a company called HonestGame. I don't know if any of you here happen to know them, because I know EdTech, industry circles tend to run kind of small, but they took a version of this workshop a few years ago. And afterwards they were like, okay, our pitch is a total mess. We need help on this stuff. Here's what they were saying about their challenges. Kim's quote is on the top. Joyce's quote is on the bottom. Not only that, they walked up to me and they said, we are so out of sync with each other, to the point where Kim goes, to the point where Joyce and I can talk to two different people at the same event. Those people can then talk to each other, and they'll be convinced they just met two different companies. That's how out of sync we are with each other as co-founders. So they needed to refine this because they knew they didn't want to like lose out on opportunities ahead. They were about to onboard their first 7 or 8 unpaid pilot customers, and they wanted to get their name out there and make sure they were on the right trajectory. So the mission or the goal was, how do we get them from the point of people being confused by not just confused by what they do, but understanding it and getting interested in it. Let me take a step back for a moment before we go further into this and give you a little bit of background on myself and why I care so deeply about this. My fundamental core belief, my core life belief, and the reason why I'm on this earth, I believe that everyone deserves a voice. And I think the reason I'm on this earth is to help people better express themselves. That is what fuels all of my pursuits. So I am a hip hop artist. Specifically, I'm known as the startup rapper. I make hip hop music about startup life. The song that was playing at the beginning, if you were here at the beginning, that's one of my songs. You can check out my stuff on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, etc. I have an album that came out just about a year ago called Goat to Market, which is some of our branding as well. It's literally an album that is kind of documenting the journey of building a company. So I think you'll really like it. Entrepreneurs in over 40 countries have listened to it, and I'll give it good feedback. So check it out when you get a chance. But that's, to me, is a form of helping champion a voice. I'm also a yoga instructor, and the way I approach teaching yoga is through the lens of storytelling and helping people find their inner expression. In addition to that, I'm also a professional TV broadcaster and ring announcer for MMA. So when I do the ring announcing, I'm literally the guy inside the cage who's like, and in the blue corner. And when I'm doing that, my job is to give each of those fighters an identity so the live audience buys into that fight and gets these fighters hyped up. When I'm doing the TV play-by-play broadcasting, and our stuff broadcasts to like 30 million households, my job is to tell stories for the viewing audience at home. So there's something more than just seeing punches and kicks and takedowns between two people, right? You'll notice the best commentators in sports are the ones who can add a narrative lens on top of the action that your eyes are seeing. You'll also notice that if you try to watch sports on mute, it is not a very interesting thing. You almost don't want to watch it. And so again, the job here is to tell stories to get the viewing audience at home to want to watch what they're seeing beyond just the base concept of two people fighting each other. All of this comes together with Startup Hypeman, which I've been running for almost 8 years now. And it is really focused on helping entrepreneurs find their voice so that they can be recognized in the way that they want to by their intended audience. And this focus on voice has had a lot of impact over the years. We've worked, across a bunch of cities around the world, every continent, obviously, except Antarctica. This has fueled millions of dollars, multiple millions of dollars in capital raises and sales growth, tons of pitch competition prize winners and more. All of this to say, the stuff I'm going to tell you today is legitimate, it's backed, and it's proven to work. So I'm sharing this also to say, I think this is important. I think your message, your pitch, your story is important. But if you don't want to take my word for it, I would like you to take the words of a few other reputable people. The first person who you may want to take advice from is a guy named Raj Bhargava. He is, what I like to joke, is the Tom Brady of entrepreneurship, because I would say in startup land, the equivalent of winning the Super Bowl is either IPOing or exiting. And he is an 8-time founder, and he's got 3 or 4, or maybe 5 IPOs to his name, couple exits. He's still running his 8th. I think he's on the board of his 7th. He's still running his 8th company. He had one of the first 50 or 100 public websites ever. His first company was responsible for getting brands like ESPN on the internet in the first place. So he's very accomplished, to say the least, and I take his word seriously. I had him on my podcast, and I didn't lead the witness. I didn't say, what do you think about messaging? I just said, where do startups need to be more focused on in the early days? His response was, I think messaging is one of the most important things startups can focus on, and it gets glossed over all the time. I think most companies fail at it, and that's probably why a lot of them actually fail overall. He also co-authored a book called The Startup Playbook, which I highly recommend you read. It's like a great A to Z manual of building a venture-backed company. If you don't want to take his word for it, take the words of Sean Amirati, the next person I'll show you, who is a professor of entrepreneurship at Carnegie Mellon and an angel investor himself. Sean said, how you end up like a WordPress or a YouTube is you have your foundational elevator pitch extremely tight. It really is the core building block upon which you can build all the different communications important for your business. So again, it's not just that it's this 1 minute soundbite. It is that if you get your elevator pitch right, your entire messaging strategy now builds on top of that. So that's how key it is to your fundamental, not just investor outreach, but your go-to-market as well. Sean also authored a book called The Science of Growth. Great read. It's also an audio book. Him and his research team at Carnegie Mellon looked at nearly identical products in identical markets and studied what were the elements that led one to scale up and the other to stall out. So they do these side-by-side case study analyses. For example, we've all heard of YouTube today, obviously. At the same time of YouTube's come up in the mid-2000s was another company called Rever. Why have we never heard of Rever? And why do we use YouTube on the daily? His book analyzes those two stories side by side. If you still don't want to take his word for it, take the words of Abhinaya Kundaru, who's a VC here in Chicago. I had coffee with her. I said, what's the number one, what do you think is the most important founder trait? Her response was, storytelling is the number one most important founder trait. It's not just that it means you can pitch me. Good storytelling is a leading indicator of your ability to get customers and hire the right people, which will ultimately determine your success. So that's another reason why this is important. If you can be good at storytelling, you are giving an investor an indication that you have the communication strength to now recruit the right team and get them to buy into your vision, to get your first set of customers to buy into what you're selling, right? There's so much that builds on top of good storytelling ability. So can we all collectively agree that your story, your message, your pitch is important? Yeah? By some nods of heads, yeah? Okay. If that's the case, let's do a call and response. So I want you all to come off of mute. I'm going to say part of a sentence. You're going to repeat it back to me. So bring yourself off of mute. My product.
My product.
My product.
Let's try it again. My product.
My product.
Does not mean shit.
Does not mean shit.
Without a compelling story.
Without a compelling story.
Let's do it one more time all the way through together. 3, 2, 1. My product does not mean shit without a
compelling story.
Okay, beautiful. Now that we can all agree on that, let's move this thing forward. We know this is important. Now let's talk about what we all care about. Money, right? We are trying to raise capital. We are trying to generate revenue. If that sounds almost a little bit too on the nose for you, you can extrapolate the idea of money to also mean we are trying to create economic impact with our work. We are trying to create jobs in the economy. We are trying to build generational wealth for our family. That is what is on the other side of strong communication. And we know that the communication is what gets us the money, but there's still a gap. And perhaps when it comes to thinking of that pitch, you get really tongue-tied. Maybe a lot of you chose not to volunteer because you were worried something like this might happen.
The dog, you put the food in the thing, and then the dog sees it, and food's dangling. Dog looks at dang, tail wag, dog wagging the tail, whatever dog's name is. Dog's name is Claire. Claire, come in. Shh. Claire sees dog food, pick, Facebook, like.
Sizzle. Strategy. Sex. Something.
This is the worst pitch I have ever seen.
So obviously a little bit of an exaggeration, but again, I know for a lot of you who are like, oh, I just don't feel ready, you're almost worried that something like that might happen. And I think it happens. Well, one, if we're not prepared, something like that can happen, or an element of that can happen. But I also think we conflate too many different ideas all at once, and then we psych ourselves out, and we end up just confusing other people. So I want to ask you all a question. What is the purpose of a pitch? Use the chat here and drop your answers. What would you say is the purpose or I guess the goal of a pitch? Either of those words were purpose or goal of a pitch.
I think the goal of a pitch is to be able to convey your ideas effectively.
Convey your ideas effectively. Thank you, Chriselle. Janani says, answer is why we do what we do. To get someone to see the world the way you do. Earn the right to continue the conversation to get to a yes, whether it's an investor or a customer. These are all really, really good answers. And these are in line with the answers that I was saying for many years. And then earlier this year, I did a bit of reflection and I looked back at all the pitches that we've built like 300 something pitches over the years. And I looked back at all of these pitches. And then I also looked at like what else I saw working effectively in the market. And I was like, there's something more behind this. All of these reasons you all gave are true, but I think they're an output of something deeper. And what I realized is that the true purpose of a pitch is to make your audience feel seen. Because when your audience feels seen, they will trust you with their time, their energy, their information, and ultimately their money. And that's how those things happen, right? You earn the right to the next conversation. You get someone to see the world the way you do. You help answer the why, right? You compel the listener to that next step. When they feel seen, they find a piece of themselves in the story you are telling. Or if it's an investor, they see how you are able to help your target audience find that piece of themselves. And if they cannot find themselves, your story really isn't worth telling. So what doesn't make someone feel seen? Overwhelming with big, broad numbers, right? I call it the market size mistake, where people start swinging their big TAM energy, right? Like too many founders will be like, oh, let me tell you about our company. Well, machine learning is a $250 billion industry. And they're like, they're waiting for you to almost like drop your jaw and be like, take my money now, right? Or we think the more numbers we rattle off, the more product attributes that we share, the more detail that we give, the more impressive that we're going to sound. But in reality, all we do is just create a death by information overwhelm for our audience. So these are not the things that are making your audience feel seen. And I'm not saying market size is not relevant or important. It's just not the most important thing. It's table stakes. Don't build your entire case around it. So I would say heed the advice of someone who managed to win over their audience by making them feel seen for over 4 decades. I just learned of this quote from one of our clients last week. Mr. Rogers, his quote, "I feel so strongly that deep and simple is far more essential than shallow and complex." Deep and simple over shallow and complex. So what is it that is ultimately holding us all back, right? We all have said, hey, this stuff is important. We're trying to work on it, but there's something that's holding us all back. And it's this theory I came up with called the messaging treadmill. Now, I've trained over 5,000 entrepreneurs at this point, and there are 3 reasons that have come out as why this is so difficult to figure out what is that message you need to deliver to others. And I call it the messaging treadmill. There are 3 reasons for this treadmill, almost like you're running in place, not making progress feeling. Number 1 is being too in the weeds of your own company, right? You're so close to it that it's hard to zoom out, take a step back, and think through it and think about how someone else would need to take this in with a fresh mind, fresh ears, and fresh eyes. Number two is being too technical. Maybe you're the product person. Maybe you're the software person. You know that side. You know how to speak that really well, but the forward-facing communication side isn't your strong suit. Number three is being too caught up in the day-to-day. You are an entrepreneur. You have a million things on your to-do list. Figure out pitch is at the bottom of that list. And I know how this goes because I'm an entrepreneur as well. You could have 10 things on your to-do list. Build pitch is number 10. You'll knock off the first 9 things, stare at that 10th thing, and then create 9 new tasks to put in front of it before addressing that, and just keep bumping it down the list. It's really hard to focus on this one thing when you have a lot of other responsibilities. And then on top of all that, if you took those reasons and you put them into a gift box, that the label on that gift box would say this is entrepreneurship, which means there's an ongoing daily mental crisis where, like, 7 a.m. you pour your coffee, you look at your email on your phone while pouring your coffee, and that was a terrible mistake because you're like, oh my God, there's been a bug in the app and we've been down for the last 12 hours and nobody told me. Now you got angry customers and users who are like, I can't access my account, you're stealing my data, I hate you. Then an investor you met with last week is like, thanks, but we're not gonna move forward at this time. And then you get a potential customer you thought was gonna close, all of a sudden they're ghosting you. By around 2 p.m., it's like, I really should have listened to my family and stayed in that high salary job that had benefits and everything along with it. 3 p.m., something good happens. You're like, maybe I can do this. 4 p.m., another good thing happens. You're like, yeah, it's not so bad. 5 p.m., something bad. And then we get up and we do it again the next day and the next day and the next day. And this is entrepreneurship, which is a 7-day-a-week job. Even if we're not actively working on it, our minds don't sleep on it. So when all of these things are happening in the background, it can be really hard to then have to figure out, how do I talk to people about it as if none of these issues are happening? And how do I talk about it like it's, the greatest thing ever, even though I know all this chaos happening on the back end? In the chat, use the number 1 or 2 or 3 or any combination of those numbers to let me know which of these cases do you feel represents your situation. Or if it's none of them, please just tell me if it's something else. Pete and Greg coming in at a 1, being 2 in the weeds. Noma also a 1, 2 in the weeds. Sometimes my chat is on a little bit of a delay, so let's see if we can give it a couple more seconds to get a few more answers. And then again, use the chat. Let me know what which number you feel, or which combination of numbers do you feel represents your situation. Wendy, 2 in the weed. Well, hopefully not anymore, Wendy, because we've built out a killer pitch for you. Steve is number 3, too caught up in the day-to-day. All right, so it looks like largely this stuff is resonating. With coming back to HonestGame with Kim and Joyce, they were very much reasons 1 and 2. Kim was 2 in the weeds and Joyce was too technical. So the first thing we had to do is fix the mindset. And that's this first lesson I want to hit you with today, which is, from this day forward, I want you to stop thinking like an entrepreneur. And instead, I want you to think like an entertainer. Why an entertainer? Because the entertainer has one goal in mind. How do I make my audience feel something? How do I move them? Right? How do I get them leaving this arena buzzing with a particular energy? Think of your favorite musician. When you go and see them live, what doesn't happen is they don't take the stage being like let's say it's Soldier Field. All right, Chicago, how's everyone doing tonight? And you're like, yeah. Okay, so listen, tonight we're going to play every song from our entire catalog. We've released 12 studio albums. Each album has about 14 to 16 songs on it. We're going to play all of those, even the random little skits and half songs that are included. After we get through all of that, we've got some working drafts in the garage that aren't quite fine-tuned. They don't sound great to you, but it's really, really important to us that you know they exist. We're going to go through those. And then when we complete that, we want to spend a little bit of a time giving you a window into our upcoming 6 to 9 month music roadmap. It's going to take about 35 hours to get through all of this. Who's with me? Right? Even if it's your favorite artist, your favorite band, you're probably not sticking around for that show. The only person who might be able to pull it off is Taylor Swift. Everyone else, I don't think so. You're going to be like, what are you doing? Play the hits already. And that's your job as an entrepreneur. When you think like an entertainer, You have to curate your set list, because that's what the entertainer does, right? They curate a set list around the desired emotion they want to leave people with. And the fact that they have a set list gives them order and structure to every city that they go. And not only is it order and structure, but because they have that order and structure, they have the ability to, the rapper can do a freestyle when he's in Detroit because he knows he can add something in that's going to work for that audience. Or the guitarist can do a different guitar solo, or they can change up one of the songs because in Miami, the vibe is a little bit different. But they don't go in and being like, yeah, let's just figure it out once we get on stage, right? You got to approach it with that same mindset. You're curating your set list. And the fact that you have that allows you to take it on tour, if you will, and make a slight modification based on the specific audience or place you're in front of. You're going on your own road shows in the same way a musician is. So think like an entertainer, be audience focused, not product focused. So now let's take the mindset and start to apply it to actually pitching. As we think about how we're going to pitch our companies, I think it's really good to first see a model of a really good pitch. And what I have determined is the greatest elevator pitch of all time is actually not from any one tech company or anything like that. It's actually from a source of entertainment. It is Will Smith and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song. Now, earlier, I said you didn't realize you walked into a live interactive game show today. You also didn't realize you have walked into a live sing-along concert. So I would like you to come off of mute, and together we are going to sing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme. And there will be internet lags and all, and it's going to be great. So bring yourself off of mute. And a 1 and a 2. I only see a couple people off mute. Let's go, people. And a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. I'd like to take a minute to sit right there. I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel-Air. Dun, 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 dun. In West Philadelphia, born and raised. On the playground is where I spend most of my days. Chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool, shooting some b-ball outside of my school with a couple of guys who were up to no good. Started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in one little fight, and my mom got scared. She said, "You're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel-Air." All right, we'll pause it there. Thank you for those of you who participated. Round of applause for yourselves. Now, why do we do that? It's fun, it's funny, and all that stuff. Yeah, but that's his elevator pitch for the show. He's telling a story in a minute in that song. I had this really rough upbringing in Philadelphia. And if I stayed there, there was a pretty good chance I was going to get involved in the wrong stuff. My mom recognized this early on. And she saw the only way for me to fulfill my potential would be to send me packing to Bel-Air, California. That way I'd be surrounded by the right family, have access to the right education, and be able to tap into the right resources so that ultimately I could grow into the man she knew I was capable of becoming, AKA sit on my throne as the Prince of Bel-Air. That's the story being told there. And that is why every episode makes sense. If you had never seen that introduction or heard it and watched an episode of the show, you'd spend the entire episode trying to figure out what's going on here, what's the plot. But what that elevator pitch does is it sets up the plot for you. It gives you the plot or the idea of the plot, and it teases out that there's more to learn. And that's what you need to do with your pitch, with your elevator pitch. You need to give people a basic understanding of the plot so that it teases them to want to learn more. You're not giving away the whole ending or the whole show. You're just giving them that teaser song or that trailer up front. Because you know the song, you can watch episode 1 or episode 101 and know what's going on at baseline. You don't have to waste time trying to put the pieces together. So as you think about your elevator pitch, give people that introduction so they don't have to then spend more time confusedly putting the pieces together. What they're doing is understanding what you've told them. And now out of interest and desire, they want more follow-up information so they can build on top of what you've said, not be confused on how it all comes together. Another reason why I like to use this as an example is because They didn't get to like season 4 and be like, you know what? People get it by now. We don't need to do the song anymore. Every episode starts with the song because they know it might be your 50th time watching it, but it's always someone else's first time. And that person needs to be brought up to speed. So that anecdote is there for you because the number of times I'll be at a conference where you might have a booth, or maybe you're just walking the floor, where I'll see entrepreneurs get pitch fatigue so quickly. An hour into the event, they'll be like, I've been talking all day. Yeah, so we do this and this. And they shoot themselves in the foot because they're tired. But you owe it to your audience to give it your best shot every single time, right? You need to show up with that enthusiasm and that refinement every single time, because it might be your 50th time explaining it, but it's that next person's first time hearing it. And you don't know what's on the other side of that person properly understanding and being interested in what you're doing, right? I'm telling you, opportunity is on the other side of clear communication. And how you show up in the first 60 seconds is going to determine what happens in the next 60 minutes. So let's take this concept now and apply it to some actual tools and formulas and strategies. To develop our elevator pitch, we need to first develop our position in the market. So the first strategy that I'm going to hit you with is something that I call the superhero positioning strategy. You have to look at what you are doing as a superhero. Your company is a superhero. Because what do superheroes do? They help and they save people. What are you doing? You're helping and saving a subset of the market from something that they're experiencing. I like to use Batman as an example because Batman was just someone who took technology and combined it with access to capital to serve the public good. Sounds a little bit familiar to what we're all trying to accomplish, right? Technology, access to capital, serve the public good. Generally speaking, what's happening that makes Batman put on the cape to come and save the day? Throw some answers in the chat, and you can use the images on the slide as an example or as a help. What's happening that makes him put on the cape and save the day? Yeah, crime, right? Chaos and danger, of course. Yes, these are all the things. The bank is being robbed. Someone's getting mugged in the street. Joker's blowing up the hospital. These are the things that make Batman put on the cape and save the day. Batman does not save Gotham on a sunny day. If it is like 75, it's like a today outside, right? You have your kids at the park, you're taking your dog for a walk, you don't have a care in the world. You don't see Batman swoop in and be like, whoa, I'm here to serve you. Because if he did, do you know how the people would react? They'd be like, why are you talking like that? What's with the creepy cape? Stay the hell away from my children. They would get the exact opposite impression of Batman. He only saves them when they need saving. And yet, I hear so many founders try to save Gotham without it needing saving. Or they try and save Gotham on a sunny day. They swoop in. Our product does this, this, and this. We are an AI platform specializing in education for whatever. Or like I said earlier, Edtech is a $75 billion market growing at a 6% annual rate. Our platform does this and this through AI, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? All of those are ways you are saving Gotham on a sunny day, and people aren't going to resonate with it. The superhero positioning strategy says that in order for the superhero, you, to exist, you must first have a person in distress. With a person in distress, you then set a village on fire. With a village on fire, you unlock a superpower to help them. And with the superpower in play, the superhero comes in to save the day. Or in business speak, this is your target audience, the core problem they are experiencing, your approach to that problem, and ultimately your solution. The reason why this is effective is because you are forcing yourself to think through the lens of your audience first, which means you are leading with empathy. And empathy is the key to unlocking this whole thing, okay? You want to be able to showcase empathy for your audience. Now, with Kim and Joyce and HonestGame, we started with this strategy. With everyone we work with, we start with this strategy. We've got templated worksheets for it. But if you're going to do this on your own, this is just an internal positioning exercise. It's a reference document for you. Nothing you put in here is meant to be your external facing communication. It's just an organized brain dump. So if you do this on your own, the baseline way to do it is take out a piece of paper, draw 4 columns, and just start bullet pointing your answers. Get the ideas out of your head. Once you have done this, you now have the raw material to develop your elevator pitch. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you the elevator pitch formula that has trained thousands of entrepreneurs. Are we ready for that? If so, in the chat, type in capital letters the word pitch. All right, the chat's coming in. Pitch, 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 pitch. The crowd is chanting it. They are on their feet. Ladies and gentlemen, the most easy to remember, yet deadly effective messaging framework you will ever come across. I call it simply que pasa. Now, for anyone who knows Spanish, you will know that que pasa in Spanish means what's up or what's happening. And as it pertains to your elevator pitch, your job is to tell people what's up. What's up with them, therefore, what's up with you. Que pasa, P-A-S-A, problem, approach, solution, action. Problem, approach, solution, action. Problem, approach, solution, action. Problem, approach, solution, action. The reason why this is so effective, coming back to what we said with the superhero strategy, it extrapolates to this. You are providing context and frame of reference for why you should even exist first. But most importantly, you start with empathy, and you use empathy as the key to introducing your offer. This is how you get people on your side. This is how you get them interested. This is how you hit at their heart. This is how you make people feel seen. You start with them, not with you. What you're effectively doing in this model is flipping the script, because to this point, I'm going to guess you've led with your offering. So at this point, you're not leading with your offering anymore. You're actually leading to it. Huge difference. When you make that leap, when you make that transition, it's a quantum leap for the connections you make, the conversations you have, and what happens as a result. Don't lead with your offering, lead to it. Are we ready to see some examples using the que pasa formula? Yeah? Okay, good. I'm going to show you 3 different ed tech companies now. And I think they're all Chicago-based, actually. Yeah. The first one, I want you to meet Brooke and Jeff. They are the co-founders of a company called Reach. Some of you may know who they are. Here's what Brooke had to say. She was saying, we struggle to confidently articulate the right words so that it's compelling for others. So we applied the que pasa model, and I should correct, their official company name is Reach Pathways. So applying the que pasa model, here's what the elevator pitch sounds like. You can be anything you want to be. Good luck. Every day, students are told to plan for the future. But planning for the future means having the right mindset and knowing the right people to make the right moves. That might be easy if you already have access to resources. For the students who don't, taking the next step feels like an extra homework assignment without the extra credit. Reach Pathways is the road to navigate from college to career. Instead of outdated pamphlets or boring seminars, students journey through the Reach metaverse world and get rewarded for interacting with mentors, alumni, consuming bite-sized career content, and even accomplishing real-world tasks, all to build up their skills in a way that feels more like Fortnite and less like homework. Reach for something greater at reachpathways.com. capital R in the chat if you have a baseline understanding of how reach might be beneficial to their target audience of students. Good, good, good. And again, you see how the information kind of progressively unfolds in the KPASA model. Notice also, we're not conflating anything with big market size numbers out of the gate, right? We're not opening with high school education is an X billion-dollar market. And where did this get them? So remember, the elevator pitch is not just your 1-minute story. It influences your 3-minute pitch, your 5-minute pitch. It influences all the conversations you're going to have in between. And Reach has had a good amount of success in not a whole lot of time. They won the South by Southwest pitch competition last year. They've also won, I think just last week potentially, or in the last month, they won the Milwaukee Summerfest competition for $20K. They have achieved over $750K in grants. And in total, they've raised over $1 million at this point for their startup, right? It all comes back to, or it all starts with having the right message so that the audience can understand it in a way that compels them to believe in you. Let's look at another one. This is a company called Fan Food. I happen to have a before and after video for this one. So I'm going to show you Carson, at the time, the co-founder of the company. I put him on camera. We were in person. I put him on camera and I said, okay, pitch me. Here's what he had to say.
Alrighty, Fan Food is a mobile concession app that allows fans at live events to order concessions from their phone. They can choose to have it delivered to their seat, or they can pick it up through an express line. The value add for the end user, the fan, is that we're going to maximize the user experience. The value add for the venue is that we're going to increase the revenues and the per caps. Yeah, that's it.
I mean, that's like a 3 out of 10, maybe a 2. No, nothing about it. He didn't even sound interested in his own company or like he liked his own company. Very mechanical way of talking. Then we apply the KPASA model, and here's what changes, or here's how it changes. We're going to start with the problem.
Hey there, my name is Carson Goodell, CEO and co-founder of Fan Food. Now, as a diehard sports fan, there's nothing more frustrating when you're at your team's game than missing a big play because you were stuck waiting in a line for a hot dog and beer. Fan Food keeps you in the moment.
Solution.
Our mobile ordering app brings concessions directly to your seat, so you never have to miss the big play. Now, we are currently live in 5 venues in 3 different states, our 2 largest being a Major League Soccer venue and the Formula 1 Raceway down in Austin, Texas. Download our app today on the iOS and Android store.
Confidence, swagger. Instead of looking to the side saying, that's it, that's all I got, he ends it with a little. And I think the message makes sense. Capital letter F in the chat if you understand how Fan Food is valuable to its target audience. You're not grading them enough. You're telling me you understand them. Yes. Great. And you might be asking, I said EdTech companies, why would I throw them in there? Because they actually enacted a go-to-market strategy, putting Fan Food in different high schools where their target audience ended up being athletic directors and booster organizations. And so that actually had its own separate pitch as well. But just so you can quickly see the pitch that Carson just gave here, where did this lead them? They won $1,000 almost immediately. They then won $25K. That $25K came with an advisory session from Damon from Shark Tank. They then did a successful crowdfund. They raised $3 million roughly, and then they expanded their customer base to pretty much every major type of event and league. So huge growth trajectory for them. And again, you ask Carson, he'll say so much of it came back to the ability to tell the story in a way that made people care. What about Kim and Joyce? Let's come back to them. We remember where they were at, right? Like they were confusing people. They were talking to the same people. Those people were talking to each other, and they were convinced they didn't even meet the same founders of the same company. Well, we applied the KPASA model, and it translates into something much more impactful. And they use the KPASA as the script for an explainer video. So we're going to watch the KPASA through the lens of the video.
And we're back in third
First,
quarter
there's an advertisement from
Adams is quarterbacking this project, and she is looking pretty.
Okay, here we go. We start with the problem.
When you're a star high school student athlete, you compete tirelessly on the court and in the classroom to achieve your one dream of playing in college. Top schools recruit you and even offer you a scholarship. Then senior year hits and you find out that the class you took actually doesn't count. Your GPA is 0.25 off or your SAT score is 10 points too low. Even with the experts in your corner, school counselors, parents, and coaches, athletic eligibility rules can be confusing to navigate. And often by the time you find out you're ineligible, it's too late to catch up. Boom. Game over.
Approach.
HonestGame is the clear pathway for getting in.
Solution.
We automate the process so the student, the parent, the coach, the counselor, and the college all get real-time eligibility updates. With HonestGame, everyone knows what to do before it's too late.
I'm going to pause it there for the purpose of that video. They threw in some extra stats that help support their case. But capital letter HG, if you can understand how HonestGame might be valuable to student athletes who want to play in college and the college is trying to recruit them. Good, 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 good. Okay, this stuff works, I'm telling you. HonestGame had a really cool story. Like I mentioned, they were about to onboard just a handful of unpaid pilot customers. Then an opportunity came along for a competition with the Chicago Bulls and a VC group called Loud Capital. 221 companies applied, and HonestGame actually made it into the semifinals where the top 20 were selected. Not only did they make it in the top 20, those top 20 pitched at 1871. That was whittled down to a top 5. HonestGame actually made it into the top 5. And again, they didn't even have revenue yet. The top 5 got to pitch on center court at the United Center to the Bulls executives, to Loud Capital, and other area business leaders. The next night, during the Bulls game, the winner was announced during the timeout. And guess who was standing tall holding the big check? Him and Joyce from HonestGame with a $50K investment. The same two people who just a few months prior were confusing people with their pitch were now literally getting rewarded for it. They flipped, I mean, I think the final pitches were 5 minutes long, maybe. They flipped 5 minutes into $50,000. And that then springboarded them towards their seed round. They ended up doing a little bit over 2 million. They oversubscribed it. Last I checked in with them, they're doing 7-figure annual revenue. As of, I think, last week, they inked a official vendor of record partnership with the IHSA, which is the governing body for all of Illinois high school sports. And all of that success kind of trickles back down to, at the end of the day, the starting point, which is getting the communication aspect of it right. And this is something that they'll tell you as well, right? How much the story and getting that message right so people could not just understand it, but care about it in the way they cared about it was so influential to their growth. So in closing, I want to just say a couple final things here. We talked about the mindset. Don't think like an entrepreneur, think like an entertainer. We covered the formulas, superior positioning strategy, and the K-PASA elevator pitch. We also showed some examples of other ed tech companies who have had success with that formula. You've got a choice moving forward now. You can continue to table this stuff, or you can prioritize it, and you can make it something that you realize is actually influential to your growth, not a distraction from it. Whether growth is more customers or getting your first set of customers, or whether growth is raising capital or winning competitions or getting investment in some capacity. As you do these things, I want you to also keep in mind that it's easy to get caught in trying to be better than others. It's easy to get caught trying to claim you're the best of a certain set. But if you do that, that's a fast track to just being constantly compared to what else is out there. So my advice is, don't be the best, be the only. Because the entrepreneurs who can stake their claim and get others to see them as the only, they are the ones who shape the market in their image. They create categories. They build the sandbox and get to decide who plays in it, if anyone. And those are the ones that people start writing checks for, who people start endorsing, who people become the customers of. So don't be the best, be the only. Final things here. My contact information is in the bottom left. We've got an online founder community called the Goat to Market Club. You can join it using the link in the bottom right. It's free. This QR code in the top right will take you to my calendar page. If this is something you want my team and I's help with, we do this stuff literally every week. Wendy's on this call. She's been going through this process with us over the last few weeks. She can tell you that it's been helpful for her. If you want our help with it, that will take you straight to our calendar page to learn more. You can meet with me and we'll discuss if it makes sense for your company. We have a whole process we take people through to develop not just a deck or not just an elevator pitch, but actually a complete pitch kit. The best way I thought I heard it described last week by one of our customers was we are giving them a Lego set, and we're giving them like the model the Lego is supposed to be built in, but because it's Legos, they know when they can take like one brick from the top and move it to the bottom. So it goes from like sailboat to battleship based on the type of conversation or interaction they're having. I thought that was really good feedback that, I felt really good hearing. Even if you never, ever see me or hear me or talk to me again, please take today's content to heart and use it to your advantage, because I'm telling you, I've seen it time and time again. You focus on your message, you use K-Pasa and you use it to structure all of your communication, you will see wins. I can hang around for a couple more minutes if anyone has any final questions. You're welcome, Chriselle. And again, I will follow up with those resources that has the director's cut recording, as well as a copy of an extended copy of the slides with additional examples. This recording from today will go up on our YouTube channel in about a week. So just make sure you're subscribed to the Startup Hype Man YouTube channel.
Hey, Raj, quick question. When you talk about, when you're pitching to venture folks and you say you want them to be seen, I mean, you're essentially translating like you're creating a clear definition of a problem that they can recognize and go, I understand that.
Correct. You're showing them how you would talk to your customers. And I think that's one of the best ways to affront it, is be like, yeah, let me tell you how we pitch our customers. And then they can see you're able to make that connection point, right? And I'm telling you, it works. Like what I find so interesting is if you ask an investor, like, oh, what do you want to see in a 1-minute pitch? They might be like, give me 15 seconds and say these 3 things. What they tell you versus what they react to are 2 different things. Because you don't have to necessarily they won't tell you that they need a 1-minute K-Pasa, but when you give them that, they are like, wow, that's really interesting. Tell me more. Earlier this year, I was at a conference and I happened to take an Uber from one event to another with an investor. And I was just like, let me just run some of these pitches by you that we've done for a few clients recently. I think I gave him 3 pitches. He goes, those were all not only really good and clear, but I actually want to meet all of those companies now. And I didn't like beforehand be like, all right, well, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you a problem, an approach, a solution, then an action statement, right? And none of those pitches, I don't think, included detail about market size or anything like that. Or maybe there was one thing at the very end that was like, oh, and by the way, the market is this. But none of them certainly focused on the market size, and they certainly didn't lead with the amazing AI that the product has, right? So you really want to, like we said, deep and simple, and really boil it down to the value of one person, right? And when I say that, I mean, like, it's hard to have emotion around a lot of people. Like, people want to, it's easy to be like, oh, such and such problem affects 70% of the market or 70% of students or teachers, right? And that might be true, but we can't actually visualize what 70% is. Or the other way might be like, such and such problem impacts 500,000 students every year. And yes, is that a big deal? Sure, but we can't visualize 500,000 students. We can visualize what one person is going through, though. And then we can make the inference that that is extrapolated and felt by a whole lot more people who fit that same mold. And that's what you notice in all these pitches, right? It wasn't about the aggregate market, combination of people. It was about one student athlete trying to play in college. It was about one fan trying to get a hot dog, right? It was about one high school student trying to find new career opportunities. It wasn't about millions of them.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Could you maybe distinguish a little bit more the difference between approach and solution?
Definitely. So think of approach as it's going to be like a catchy one-liner, and it represents your overarching brand promise to that target audience. Whereas solution is really going to be more of a description of what the thing is, and is a little bit more like tactile. Another way you can kind of think of it is it's like the slogan of the company. So like, I don't know, let's just use Corona as an example. Like in this model, their approach would be like find your beach. But the solution would be about the beer that makes you feel like you can escape every time you take a sip. The approach is not the beer. The approach is the finding of your beach.
Yep.
Good question. Good question. Anyone else have questions? Thank you all for hanging out with me a little bit over time as well.
On the last step on the action, there was one thing, like in your first example, it said, hey, come to reach pathways to find the solution. Is that enough action, or should it be in the product going, hey, this is what the outcome is?
Yeah, so I think for the purpose of the slide, I just kind of like truncated it a little bit, but typically if it's going to be an investor, that's the action step is where you'd put either a quick line about the market size or traction if you've got impressive traction. So like, one example, there's an ed tech we're working with right now called HeadRush out of Milwaukee. And their action step says something like the market is like schools don't just like this, or schools don't just want this, they keep wanting it, to the tune of over $600,000 in annual revenue and a 1% churn rate. I might have the numbers kind of off, but something to that effect. So in that case, I was like, it makes more sense that we play up their traction versus playing up a market size number. The less traction you have, the more you focus on market size. The more traction you have, the less you need to focus on market size. Because also keep in mind, like for any investor, market size is table stakes. No one is pitching them being like, we're entering the declining fax machine market. So it's not that it doesn't exist. It's just not your lead point or your lead message.
Right. And if you're like a pre-concept idea, like I think one of the pitches, the last one you had, they didn't have a product when they did the pitch.
They did. They were just piloting their first set of users on their platform. Yeah. But I have other examples too. Like I didn't show it today, but one that I'll show often when I do this workshop. There's a company called Cyber Pop-Up, which is a marketplace for cybersecurity professionals and small and medium-sized businesses. Christine, the founder of that company, we did this whole process with her. She won in total $250K across several pitch competitions over the course of a year. And that entire time, she was the marketplace. Like she was just manually providing the service from one side to the other. But she used those winnings to then actually build the platform itself. So it's not like you have to necessarily have the product created. The one thing I would say is if you don't know yet what you want your product to be, figure that out first, then think through what the pitch of that should be. It's really hard to do this effectively. And I say this from in the early days, 7 years ago, working with a couple of companies, and we kind of made the decision, like, let's not work with too early stage where it was like concept, where we'd be like, okay, does the product do this? And they'd be like, that sounds good. Let's say it does that. And I was like, no, that wasn't my question. So have a pretty clear idea of what, and obviously there'll be pivots and changes, but like, at least a pretty good understanding of what the thing is supposed to be. So you're not like still being like, yeah, I don't know, we could build this or we could build that. Kajal, you were our volunteer at the beginning. I'm not going to ask you to volunteer again. I just want to know, do you feel like what we covered today is helpful based off of what you said at the beginning?
Yeah, definitely. I I have an elevator pitch, but I don't have it memorized. So, and I was kind of cooking when you caught me off guard. So I was making my lunch.
Nice, nice.
But yes, this was super helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. One other just quick thing for everybody. What I really like about the KPASA formula is it's very dynamic in how you can use it. So like KPASA is fantastic copy for your homepage. You can just almost, you can like verbatim use your KPASA as the homepage of your website. But also when you build it in that model and you build it in like the, let's call it like the advertising soundy way, which I think some of those you would agree kind of have that effect to them. You have that as your kind of like supreme model, and then you can take that and then alter it slightly based on the environment you're in. So like if it's a more casual like networking event, for example, you have two options. You can either say, you could say, yeah, let me tell you what we do by telling you how we pitch it to our customers. And then you could launch into it in its as is form. Or alternatively, you could take the exact pitch that's like that and you conversationalize it by saying things like here, like let me go back to let's use reach as the example. And you could take this and be like, yeah, so like I'm sure you've heard everyone tell, you know, young students as they're growing up, like you can be anything you want to be, right? And like the thing is, every day they're told they need to plan for the future. But what happens? Planning for the future, you have to have the right mindset and know the right people. You see how you can take that exact script, but now you can conversationalize it so it doesn't sound like it's rehearsed or anything like that, and it really sounds natural and kind of as if you're coming up with it in the moment. All right, y'all.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time today. Please reach out. I would love to support you all in your journeys on this. Again, we work with a lot of companies every week on this exact thing. And it's very, very, even if you're not raising right now, this is huge for your go-to-market strategy as well. And how you're going to, you know, building this will significantly impact not only how you message in your go-to-market, but the decisions you make as well for your go-to-market. Appreciate it, Pete. Thank you, Edtech.
Yes, thank you so much.
And I'll see you around at a future Chicago event for anyone who's local. I've met a lot of them.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Enjoy.